It's the morning star drive 117.8. You soaring up with sky, now's the time, don't delay. I'm sitting in my ride and it's time to fly. So let's realign, just listen and fill your mind.
Hey guys, how is it going? And welcome to the Morning Star Drive on 117.8. It is Wednesday, September 20th, and so happy for you joining us. We are ready to start another day together with the Lord. So subscribe to us on YouTube, follow us on SoundCloud, and make sure to support us on Patreon. So today we have an exciting podcast for you. We have a new Health is Happiness, a foundational book word study, and of course commentaries, updates, and news on what is happening around the world in this history today. All right, everyone, how are you doing? Yes, it is Wednesday. It is hump day, the middle of the week. You've made it thus far. If you haven't yet, go ahead, leave a like and comment below to build our community. Just, it takes 1 second to like, and it takes about 5 seconds to leave a comment. Okay, maybe 7-8 seconds to leave a comment. But just super happy for everyone joining us each and every weekday on the Morning Star Drive. Let's get up, support each other each and every day. This week's Sunday message title, Learn from Me, Jesus. There are no lies in love, and find the first love. So it is a good and happy morning on this Wednesday. Man, this week is going by fast. And this, like I said yesterday, it's a week that I thought it would go by really slow, but it's going fast. Hope you guys are all having an amazing week. Already the middle. Guys, there's 10 days left in September. Right? We got to finish this month off really well. 10 days left in September, which means there's like 10 days left for our 70-day prayer condition. It finishes on October 1st, I believe. So, guys, let's do it. So, for me, I just wanted to encourage everyone today. This is something I just want to leave a short message of encouragement for everyone that is listening, everyone that has made it to this point. I'm sure many of us, like even from March, or some of us from January until now, we've had our ups and downs. But I was like, even for me, this week's message is pretty tough, right? So if you think about it too deeply, or if you think about it too much, you could get down and depressed kind of thing, right? So when I was praying about this, and I was thinking about, man, like, I can't think this way kind of thing, and then I really received a lot of encouragement and inspiration from Jesus. So I want to leave this message of encouragement for everyone too, because it really uplifted me, and it was like, yeah, this is it. This is a thing. So, as you know, for us in Providence, December is the month of judgment, so we don't really count that as the end of the year. We kind of think about everything ending at the end of November. So we have to think that there's only 2 months and 10 days left, which is so short. And I'm not sure if you're thinking what I'm thinking, but that means the year is almost done. Like, we're at the end, right? We're at the finish line. We're at the final stretch. And, especially this year, 2023, it's a year we would like to forget, but it'll also be the most remembered year more than any other year. It's going to be remembered because of all the stories, all the things that we went through together with the Lord. And we've made it this far already into 2023. And I am absolutely certain that God is so proud of all of us right now. All we got to do, guys, it's a little over 2 months. We have to make it until the end of 2023. This is the key, right? Just make it till the end. Just make it until that last finish line so we can receive the blessings, right? Don't sit around and mope or get down and depressed or feel like we've been left abandoned. We're almost there. And if we were to think about what we went through in 2023 just to this point, and we still, and you think to yourself, we still have 2 months left, right? We've gone through so much turmoil and confusion, and if we can overcome this and make it to the end, we'll be that much stronger in the end of it. This year, I'm sure not just myself, but for a lot of us, we were like on the edge. Like, we were on the edge of tipping over. It was just anxious moments, wondering what's happening with this trial, what is happening with AJ, with Joan and stuff like that. What's going to happen to Providence? We heard the accusations, we saw the betrayal, we felt it. We see our friends turn and leave and bring other people with them. And then we were kind of left kind of just wandering, looking for some type of direction. But even in the midst of being in that situation, we have made it this far. Like, that is something that I think is incredible, what we have done to make it to this point. And then this week's message comes, and yeah, it's strong. And yeah, there are people I've talked to already very down, very depressed. But this is a time we really need to pick each other up. Like, we can't we're already near the finish line. We can't let Satan take any more people away. Not now. Not when we're at the end, when we're so close to the end. And we need to, all of us, not just here on MSD, we have to make this community close-knit. In our churches, in our families, really support each other, even when there is like terrible sin. So if you think about it, like, even if someone sins or does something that's really, really bad, the way and the way God sees it is, as long as they are alive, even just a little bit, like 0.01%, take care of them. Take care of them so we can cross the finish line of 2023 with as many people as possible. You know, as I talk to more and more people, some people have reached or are coming to their limit. And it just feels like they can't move forward anymore. But let's not leave anyone behind. Pick them up and walk together with them. And you know, this actually reminded me of a Bible verse in Matthew chapter 5, verse 41. And it's a very interesting verse where Jesus is like, if anyone forces you to go 1 mile, go 2 miles with them. And this really inspired me when I was thinking about these people that are like reaching their limits and they need our help. It really inspired me. Like, there are some people out there that are struggling. And you know the people in our churches, sometimes as leaders, we do complain like, oh, this person needs so much management. Oh, this person's always struggling. Oh, this person, why are they struggling so much? You know, like we sometimes, there's people like that sometimes, right? And when they're struggling so much and they always need our constant management, it kind of forces us to manage them, right? It's that forcing us to go the 1 mile with them. And it takes so much energy to do it. But it's because they need it. They've reached their limitations. And every person is different. And we can't say, how can you reach your limitation now? No, everyone is different. And we have no idea what they've actually gone through in their life. We who are healthy and strong, if they force us 1 mile, let's go 2 miles with them. What does that mean? It means if someone forces you 1 mile, it means you have no choice. It means you are forced to do it. And that's why it's so, it's dreadful. You feel like, oh, and every moment that you're forced to do something, you hate it. You can't stand it. It takes so much energy. That's like managing someone you don't even want to manage. But what does it mean to go the extra mile? Going the extra mile, they forced you 1 and you take them 2, which means it is now your choice. It is no longer a force. It is our choice as individuals and as a community, as a church, to take the week an extra mile. And if we do it through our own volition and we say, we'll do it, I'll take care of this person, this is when it doesn't take as much energy. This is when it's not as trudging and dreadful. And then on top of all these things, like, this week we had such a strong and powerful message. But one thing I implore everyone is, don't think about just right now. Think about the big picture. Is Jesus giving us this message to divide us so we can judge each other, for us to kick people out who are not doing well? No. This message is absolutely out of love. It is to recenter. It is to reset our hearts again, to make sure that we will end 2023 well, that we will be even stronger as we move forward. Let's really take everyone to the finish line this year. 2 months, 10 days. Support each other, encourage each other, praise each other, lift each other up, And let's, if we have to carry those on our backs that cannot walk anymore to the end of 2023. It's the last prophecy in the Bible. There are no prophecies after 2023. And it says, those who reach to the end of the 1335, which is 2023, will be blessed. You have to reach to the end, and then it will be worth it. Let's make things happen powerfully. Let's end the year really well. Let's make the Holy Trinity, let's make Jesus, the man of mission, rejoice when they see all the people that made it to the finish line. And I hope that all of us will look and, be proud of this year more than look back and say, oh, we could have done better. This is a year, 2023. And it's not, for me, this Friday for me is my 25th, my spiritual birthday is September 22nd, which is this Friday. That will be 25 years for me, which is like a silver anniversary. If you get married, the anniversary is 25 is considered a silver anniversary. And it's very significant also. But, I'm very thankful that it's happening in the year 2023. Significant spiritual birthday with a significant year. And this is a time I really hope all of us, after 2023 is done, and we push into 2024, 25, 26, we're all going to look back at this year and we're going to just talk about all the crazy stories that happened and all the things that God did for us and all the things that we pulled through and all the craziness and I couldn't believe we made it. Oh, I'm so thankful you're still here. Yes, we picked each other up. Someone helped me. You helped me in this time and I helped this person at this time. And it just becomes this amazing moment. It's just one thing that I was listening to, when you're I was on YouTube and I was listening to this YouTube short. It was like 10 seconds. And all it said was, you cannot change the past, but you can change what you remember about the past. After 2023, if we don't really do anything, all we're going to remember is the pain and suffering. But if we run together, if we build this community, what's going to happen? What we remember about 2023 is going to be so different from others that were struggling and suffering. But we'll remember when God did this. Remember when Jesus just spoke to our hearts. Remember when Jesus said those words and it struck me and it made me stronger. Remember that time God saved my life. Remember this time God worked through you to help me. That's what we're going to remember. You can't change the past, all the things of 2023 from yesterday and beyond. We're not going to change it. But you have to look back, pray about it, and see what you can really remember about it, what God did for you. So let's make sure that this is an amazing and awesome 2023. It's a struggle, but the joy comes in the morning, right? At night, when it's midnight, it's dark into the pre-dawn, and right before the sun comes up, they say it's the darkest. We're hitting that darkest hour, but it really feels like things are changing and moving forward as we see some of the things happening. Like yesterday, so many people were commenting about they're so thankful about the Netflix audio. Like that's something that is that's great vindication for me. Like, yes, it is absolute. These people should have waited. They should have kept their faith. But I hope that, and I sincerely hope in my heart that many of them come back too. I really do. I really, that's where the love comes in this year. Don't just love love those close to you and hate your enemies. No. Don't just love your neighbors and hate your enemies. But Jesus says, I tell you this, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you. All right. So yeah, that's kind of the message that kind of Jesus spoke into the Holy Spirit, Jesus spoke into my heart this morning. And it really encouraged me, and I hope this is an encouraging message for you too as we push forward in the last 2 months here. All right. So yeah, that's kind of the message of encouragement I really wanted everyone to hear today, and I hope that it encourages you even more. And leave a comment below, and if you have anything that you were inspired by or you felt something from, go ahead and leave it in the comments. Would love to hear from you too. All right. Before we get to that first break, just know that our today's word study is the foundational books. And I didn't know about this book, but this is the first time hearing this book from John Fox called Book of Martyrs. Yeah. And when I was listening to the summary of it, it was incredible. And I want to go through the history of who John Fox is and how he wrote the book and how it became very significant. And I hope it's something that it inspires you to go and read this book also. Okay, so let's get into the first break of the day.
Every moment of every day, I'll be with you in every way. Every moment of every day, I will be there to give you strength. God has filled me with His overflowing love. It's a love that flows unending each day. He keeps treating me in all the best ways. He keeps loving me unlike any other. Now that I've realized I wanna move the heart of God. It's only our God. He is the center of all our praise. He is the reason we sing forever. I'll sing His praises with all of my heart. He is the center of all our praise. He is the reason we sing forever. To our eternal God alone, we sing the songs of our love.
Every moment of my life is a story of our love. Every moment of my life, a thankful melody. He is my past, my present, my future without end. So I offer songs of love to my one and only God now.
Hallelujah, glory to our one and only God. Hallelujah, praise and glory to our only God. He keeps treating me in all the best ways. He keeps loving me unlike any other. Now that I've realized
right, so let's get into today's word study. And every Wednesday for the past couple of weeks, probably for a month already, we've been doing foundational books of Christianity, books that have shaped the doctrines, shaped the theology, shaped people's hearts and minds, and they have been important books that have helped the foundation of modern day Christianity. Today I'm going to go into a book that I didn't really know much about. It's from a Britishman. His name is John Foxe, and he wrote this inspiring book called Book of Martyrs. Okay, so you can tell that you know what the book is about. It's about it goes through different martyrs throughout Christian history, and I think one thing for certain is when we hear about martyrs and what they did and how they gave up their lives for God, for His kingdom to advance. It's really, really inspiring. Like, wow, they actually put their lives on the line. They were literally martyred, right? And I hope it's something that we can gain and inspire from too. I'm not going to actually go into too much of the book itself because it's basically stories of martyrs all throughout history from the time of the apostles all the way into like the 16th century, right? So it's not just people from the past, but people we've never even heard of or might not know much about either. And I hope it's something that when you read it, it'll be like, oh, this is really, really encouraging and inspiring. So let's get into this. So one thing we do need to know is that martyrs, there are martyrs in every century, right? Just examples of these courageous, brave Christians willing to give up their lives rather than deny their faith. And one of these like foundational books, they call it like a history-making book, like gathered all these stories of martyrs, right? And this book has inspired Christians for generations. And this book came out in like the 1560s. So this is a book that's been around for like what, 100, no, is it almost 115, 16, 17, 18, 9, it's like 500 years almost 500 years, right? So when you look at this, it's like, wow, this is a huge foundational book. And it's from someone named John Foxe. And it was actually published in 1563, okay? And it was originally called Acts and Monuments, right? That's what it was originally called, right? And now it's called the Book of Martyrs, right? And the history has become a Christian classic. Many people read this book as something they read together with the Bible kind of things, right? And there was a time in history where the Bible and the Book of Martyrs were the only two books Christians read. Tell me that's crazy, right? So let's get into who John Foxe is. So we'll know where the history of this, the genesis of this book. John Foxe, born 1516, Boston, England, right? And he was born, like, think about this, Reformation started the year after. So he's born just after just before the Reformation began to dawn, right? So the year Foxe was born, right, 1516, is when Erasmus, who's this genius, published the entire New Testament in Greek. Then the year after Foxe's birth, Martin Luther posts his 95 Thesis in Wittenberg. Now, in 1534, Foxe went to Oxford to study theology, and Foxe, he read extensively in the Greek and Latin church fathers and compared them with the Roman church of his day. And Foxe concluded the church had departed from the faith of the earliest Christians, right? So at Oxford, that's where he was teaching, Foxe began to adopt Reformation views and also met the reformers Hugh Latimer and William Tyndale, two who would later become martyrs. Now, because he could no longer accept the theology of the Roman Church, Foxe lost his position at Oxford and could not be ordained to the priesthood. He then married Agnes Randall of Coventry and for a time found work as a tutor in the household of William Lucy in Warwickshire, and then he moved to London where he sought work in vain, right? So this is crazy what happened to him. He moves to London, starving and hopeless. He's starving, hopeless, no money. And while he was sitting in St. Paul's Church, some stranger sat down beside him, put a large sum of money into his hands. And then the stranger told him, "Take courage, for in a few days, God would give you a more certain sustenance." Now, Foxe never learned who the stranger was, but soon, right after this, the Duchess of Richmond hired him as a tutor for her brother's children. And besides tutoring, Fox wrote a number of Latin tracts urging reform. He also began work on a history that would be a justification of the Reformation and would show history as a cosmic struggle between Christ and Antichrist, good and evil, truth and error. Now, when Henry VIII died and his younger son Edward became king, those wishing to reform the church gained the power at court. Edward's reign was brief. However, at his death, his half-sister Queen Mary ascended to the throne. She re-established the Roman Catholic Church in England, and those who had followed the Reformation were imprisoned and persecuted. Now, many English Christians, including John Fox, fled to the continent for safety. Now, there was a bishop, his name is Bishop Gardiner, and this was Queen Mary's instrument against the reformers. So Bishop Gardiner made some inquiries looking for Fox, and Thomas, the young Duke of Norwich, concealed Fox's identity with a lie. So this guy said, Fox, that's my doctor. And this Duke was alarmed for Fox's safety, so he hustled him to Ipswich, where a servant hid him. Now, as soon as they could, Fox and his pregnant wife boarded a ship for the continent. Now, before it even cleared the harbor, it was Bishop Gardiner's agents broke down the door of his house where he was hidden, but now he's on the ship, right? When he found him gone, they dashed to the harbor, but then they see the ship was already too far out, and then they turned back like, there's no way we can overtake that ship. So it was fortunate to Fox that they did, but what happened was a storm comes in and drives the ship back to port. So what he did to mislead the people pursuing him, he rented a horse and pretended to flee into the country. But that night, he returned to the ship, pleaded with the captain to take him to safety and make good his escape. So then in 1554, Fox published a book called History of the Acts and Monuments of the Church, and he wrote it in Latin. Now, never before, remember, this is the original book of Martyrs. It was originally called this. But never before had Europeans heard the specific stories of these English martyrs, right? The followers of John Wycliffe, who had suffered persecution under the church for their faith. And while in exile, Fox worked as a proofreader with a printer in Switzerland and continued collecting information on Christians persecuted for their faith. Now, Fox added to his history contemporary stories from England, stories of Queen Mary's persecutions, right? Including those of the notable Oxford martyrs, and the names were Cranmer, Ridley, and Latimer. So you're going to find these names and their stories inside this book too. So what happened was eventually Queen Mary dies in 1558. So this is like still 5 years before Book of Martyrs is published. John Fox returned to England, and he is financially destitute at this point. Now, his former student, his name is Thomas Howard, had become the Duke of Norfolk and gave Fox and his family lodgings in his London home. And there Fox stayed for 10 years, studying and diligently working on his history. In 1563, he published an English edition of the Acts and Monuments and dedicated it to Queen Elizabeth. Now, Fox believed the Protestant Elizabeth was a protector of the church as Constantine had been 1,000 years earlier. Elizabeth, she read the book. She was so pleased with Fox's work, she commanded a copy be placed in every English church and gave him a position at Salisbury Cathedral. His history, what he wrote, was motivated in part by some strong theological and patriotic views, because Fox believed God was using England in a special way to prepare for his second coming. So Fox's book helped create an English sense of patriotism, a sense that they were a special or elect or chosen people, much as Old Testament Israel had been. So throughout his history, Fox saw God's hand at work. God's justice sent Queen Mary to punish the English people, and God's mercy sent Queen Elizabeth to rescue them. And, well, technically she persecuted Christians who refused to accept Church of England rules too, but, that's what Queen Elizabeth did. But by 1570, Fox greatly expanded his work to include stories of the early church persecutions. Catholics had often criticized Protestants as being a new sect, where they asked, had the Protestant faith, they would always say, wait, where was the Protestant faith before 1500? So Fox's history is written to show that the Protestant faith was the faith of the true church, which had been persecuted from its earliest days. So Fox believed that when the Roman Emperor Constantine was converted to Christianity in like 312, right, and began to show favor to the church, Satan was bound and the persecution ceased, which means that for the next 1,000 years, the church had increased in worldly wealth and spiritual corruption. So the few who sought to follow the Bible, such as there's a group called the Waldenses, did suffer persecution, and martyrs for the truth increased in the late 13th century when Fox believed Satan was again loosed. Now, in Fox's view, the Lollards, which is a group of people that were, I believe they're following the Lollards. I'm going to have I'll get into a little bit more deeper and a little bit later, but the Lollards and the Reformers, right, at the Protestant Reformation, were faithful to the early church's teaching and were persecuted as the early Christians had been. So Fox carefully documented the stories of the martyrs under Queen Mary, frequently inserting documents or quoting statements made at the trials where the Christians clearly testified of their faith. Fox's description of the trials often ended in a dramatic scene in which the believer, standing firm for the truth of the Word of God, confronts the people against him, right? The martyrs are seen as loyal subjects of the English crown, while the persecutors are subject to a foreign power in Rome. And who could ever forget Fox's description of Cranmer holding his hand in the flame, or Latimer calling out from the fire, "Be of good cheer, Master Ridley, and play the man. We shall this day light a candle by God's grace in England, as I trust shall never be put out." Right? So Fox knew that an awareness of Christian history would make a difference in the lives of believers in the church. So he concluded his work with the prayer that the grace of the Lord Jesus work with you, the reader, in all your studies, in all your studious readings, that by reading, you will learn daily to know that, know what will profit your soul, teach you experience, arm you with patience, and instruct you with spiritual knowledge more and more, so that you can become more comfortable eternally having salvation in Christ Jesus. And that's like the ending point that he gives. So it's really, really inspiring. And Fox received no royalties for his writings. And he was often found on the verge of poverty. And, he's someone who is known for like absolute honesty. So wealthy men often entrusted money to Fox for him to distribute to the poor and needy. In addition to his writing, Fox preached regularly, right? So he had his sermon in 1570 of Christ crucified, and he preached at Paul's Cross, preached at Paul's Cross, which is a place, was printed and well read in his day. And in it, he pled for mercy for others and encouraged waiting for the second coming when the righteous judge would bring true punishment. He didn't believe the death penalty should be given for a person's religious belief, right? So unconcerned with worldly success, Fox had a humane, compassionate spirit and a hatred of tyranny. And one of his earliest tracts, published in 1551, was against the death penalty for adultery, right? So in 1575, Fox boldly wrote Queen Elizabeth and her counselors to ask that a group of Anabaptists sentenced to death for their faith should be reprieved. And even more boldly, 6 years later, Fox tried to save a number of Jesuits condemned to death. So this is someone who truly believed in, he didn't care what other people thought. He truly believed it, and he was going to do it, right? So John Fox eventually died in 1587, but his Book of Martyrs continues to be in print and still inspires readers today, right? So and the great thing about him is he wrote in English, not in the scholarly Latin. Right? He believed the common people needed to know of God's workings in history, and he illustrated his work with the 170 woodcuts, making his work more accessible to the less literate. So Fox believed Christian history was a continuation of the Old Testament history and the early church's story found in Acts, and ordinary Christians needed to know of the unfolding of God's plan and the principles revealed in Scripture. And Fox also believed God's work in history would minister to the readers thereof wholesome admonitions of life with experience and wisdom, both to know God in his works and to work the thing that is God, which is godly, right? So he really wanted everyone to especially seek Jesus for their salvation, and in his faith only to find what they seek. So it is Like when you read about his history, what he went through also, it's really, really powerful. Like he himself wasn't a martyr, but it's been, think about that. He didn't even care about the money. He didn't even make money from all those copies that have been made from back then all the way to now. Even the Queen saying every church has to have a copy of his book in their church. It is that inspiring, and it's something where you look at and say, wow, okay, this is something much, much different than what we expected, right? And I think this is true for all of us here too. In the end, people are going to look back at us in 2023, see what we went through. And of course, we're not going to be, there's not going to be, it's going to be very rare to find a physical martyr at this time. But, it is a time of the spirit, a time of the heart, a time of the mind. And there are many who are spiritual martyrs, right? Who just went through hell and back and, not knowing exactly what was going to happen next. And I hope it's something that all of us, if you went through something that terrible, that bad, but you overcame and you live for the faith and you put God as number one, these are stories people want to read in the future. They do. They want to see, they want to be inspired, not just by, it's not going to be just the Bible itself, like, this is what Sunseam did. And that's inspiring as it is, but people want to hear the stories of the people who were living at that time. What did they go through, right? When you think about it, even if someone is the head, what's going to happen is they can only have the experiences of the head. But we want to hear the experiences of what happened to the heart, what happened to the liver, what happened to the arms, what happened to the legs, what happened to the toes. Like there's all these stories out there where people will see different parts, and people who are nothing, they are not the one that God has sent, but they aspired to be. And they were people who were inspiring because they lived and they pushed forward no matter how difficult it was. So I think it's something that will be inspiring for many people in the future. And that would be great to even have a book. Like I like how Janice is in Italy, and she's writing down the stories of what's happening over there in what all the things that Sunseam did over there in Italy. And I hope that we can do that for each of our countries, so that we'll have a book of stories that people could just read and be like crazy inspired by. We should have so many stories of all the things that God has done. So I really hope and pray that all of us can make these books too, whether it's going to be an audio book, a written book, or whatever it is, or even videos or YouTube channels and stuff like that too, because I think it's going to be super inspiring. All right. So there it is, guys. That is today's foundational book, Book of Martyrs by John Foxe. And that's in 1563, still being read today. All right. So then let's move into the second break of the day.
I was a lost one. I found the right one. I found the right one. Yeah, we're looking for the lost ones. I was a lost one. I found the right one. I found the right one. We stay looking for someone to hold when the right one's standing at your door. Open up your heart and say, I believe in what you say, and I promise you will gain much more. Yeah, we're looking for the lost ones. I was a lost one. I found the right one. I found the right one. Yeah, we're looking for the lost ones. I was a lost one. I found the right one. I found the right one. 10 years of struggle, 10 years of pain, but I'll finally get to see you no more. Just calling your name, and the ones who wonder who, just open up your eyes. He's waiting for you too. He's not a man in disguise, and the hardest cross to bear, but your heart's not what I wear. To think this effort and this love could overcome the dirty stairs, and it's all because of you. Yeah, it's all because of you. Said it's all because of you, yeah, I need you. Looking for someone to hold when the right one's standing at your door. Open up your heart and say, I believe in what you say, and I promise you will gain much more. Yeah, we're looking for the lost ones. I was a lost one. I found the right one. I found the right one. Yes, you right now. Yes, you right now that I need. Yeah, we're looking for the lost ones. I was a lost one. I found the right one. I found the right one. Yes, you right now. Yes, you right now that I need.
Okay, so let's get into our final segment for today. And yeah, you know what? This episode is much shorter than I thought. I didn't think it was going to be this short. We're only at 40 minutes right now, going into our third segment. So I don't even think this podcast today is going to even reach 1 hour. But thoroughly inspired, and I hope that you guys were too. Let's get into our last segment today. And our last segment, of course, on every Wednesday is Health is Happiness. And I am super happy to say, yes, we have reached... this is a brand new episode of Health is Happiness. I'm super happy about this. And this is Yen Yu from Singapore, and she's doing an episode on cardio training. And this is something that's quite interesting because all over YouTube and stuff right now, there's this one dude that keeps saying, if you want to lose weight, don't do cardio kind of thing. So I'm really looking forward to listening to the science behind cardio training, and I hope you guys will also enjoy this too. Make sure you leave a good comment for her so that, she can be encouraged for the future to do even more episodes, okay? So everyone, please welcome all the way from Singapore. This is Yuan Yu with Health is Happiness.
Hello everyone, my name is Yuan Yu and I'm from Singapore. I'm currently studying in my final year of physiotherapy. On today's topic, I'll be explaining about cardio training. In order to have a physically active lifestyle, there are 3 very important aspects. Number 1, strength exercises to improve muscular fitness. Number 2, cardio or aerobic exercises to improve cardio fitness, also known as heart fitness. Number 3, reducing sedentary activity. Today, I will emphasize more on cardio exercises. I find that this timing of the recording of this episode is really apt as I'm currently on a cardiac placement where I teach patients after going for heart surgery how it's like to get back to walking and their daily life. Firstly, why cardio? Our physical fitness can be categorized into various aspects such as body composition, flexibility, muscular strength, muscular endurance, and cardiorespiratory endurance. For cardio exercises, it mainly improves our health in the cardiorespiratory endurance aspect, where the heart becomes more efficient in pumping blood. It also improves our health in the body composition category because cardio exercises improves fat burning. The above 2 further lead to more health benefits such as improved mood, stronger immune system. And these benefits also apply to those with health conditions such as cardiovascular disease, diabetes, mental health, older people, or even during pregnancy. However, the parameters as to how much and how long to do it for would differ for each individual, and one can seek medical advice. Second, what is cardio exercise? It is repetitive, structured physical activity that requires the body's metabolic system to use oxygen to produce energy. For an exercise to be considered cardio, it involves raising your heart rate to a moderate or vigorous intensity. Hence, strength training is not considered cardio exercise as it doesn't raise the heart rate for extended periods of time. Some examples of cardio exercise include walking, jogging, cycling, swimming, hiking, climbing steps, rowing machines. HIIT, which stands for HIIT, high intensity interval training, and one can also join church sport activities if your church has any. HIIT may not be, or with regards to HIIT may not be as enjoyable to some as it involves a higher intensity exercise at a shorter duration. However, it is also a good form of cardio exercise. I think one thing good about cardio exercises is that it can also be done in various places, such as your home, around your residence, in the park, etc. Also, another way to categorize cardio exercises is how high or low the impact is. High impact exercises involves having both of your feet off the ground at some point in time. For instance, jump rope, running. Whereas a low impact activity involves one foot remaining on the ground at all times. For example, walking and hiking, of which it also includes exercises in the water, such as swimming or aquatic exercises. And another low-impact exercise is cycling, because the bicycle supports most of your body weight. What is the significance of all of this? Well, impact exercises do promote your bones to grow stronger. And if you find it painful on your joints when you exercise, or you have existing arthritic conditions, for example osteoarthritis, then doing something of a lower impact would be more suitable. Although a higher impact exercise would promote more bone growth, we do not want to do too much too fast. Therefore, a lower impact exercise would be better to start with, and then gradually moving on to something with higher impact. Now, how can one do your own cardio exercise training? According to the ACSM guidelines, the American College of Sports Medicine guidelines, healthy adults should aim for at least 150 minutes of moderate aerobic activity or 75 minutes of vigorous aerobic activity weekly, or an equivalent combination of moderate and vigorous activity. For those who have not been exercising, then a light to moderate intensity exercise may be beneficial. One example of all of this can be brisk walking or jogging for 30 minutes for 5 days a week, of which this 30-minute exercise can be done in short blocks of 10 minutes times 3 times a day. However, regardless of all of this, as a baseline, any activity is better than none. Do note that when you're doing cardio exercise, should you feel excessive tiredness, excessive breathlessness, chest pain, or cold sweat, do stop, take a rest, and seek medical attention, especially if these symptoms persist. Then, as you are doing your cardio exercise, when can you progress? At the same intensity of the workout, if you feel less tired and find it more manageable for at least 1 to 2 consecutive sessions, then do progress it. And how to progress? You can either make it longer or you can make it harder by increasing the intensity. Here is one example of a cardio program. I will split them briefly into easy, intermediate, and advanced. So for instance, for easy, it can be walking, jogging on the spot, air jump rope, meaning that you jump without a rope and with an imaginary rope, and jumping jacks. Intermediate would be something like jogging, jumping rope with an actual jump rope, climbing stairs, cycling. And advanced would be running, jump squats, burpees, jump lunges, etc. When you start, do have a warm-up of at least 5 to 10 minutes. It can consist of dynamic stretches or an easier version of what your exercise is. For instance, if you're going to jog, then for your warm-up, you can jog at a slower pace or brisk walk. Warm-up is important because just like how you need to start a car before you drive it, if you don't warm up, then you're more likely to get injured. Also, warming up helps to prepare your body to do something more difficult. If you find that you don't warm up versus you warm up, you'll be able to do a longer and higher intensity exercise if you warm up. Then you can move on to the actual exercise, where you want to aim for a moderate intensity or a vigorous intensity. And how to gauge, you can use the rate of perceived exertion scale, the RPE scale. You want to aim for something that is difficult on a scale that you can rate on a scale of 0 to 10, where 4 to 6 would be moderate and vigorous would be 7 to 8 out of 10. Then another way that you can tell how difficult the activity is called the talk test. If during the activity you can complete sentences without any problem, then it is an easy intensity exercise. If you're able to speak but not complete sentences, then that is intermediate or moderate. And if you can only speak a few words, then that is vigorous intensity. Afterwards, do also have a cooldown of 5 to 10 minutes, and this can be in the form of an easier version than what you were doing. For instance, if you ran or if you jogged, then jog at a slower pace or brisk walk as cooldown. Cooldown is equally important too, because it allows your heart to go back to where it was previously when you were at rest. During exercise, the heart pumps out to 25 liters of blood a minute, and the muscles are delivering 25 liters of blood back to the heart by squeezing the blood up your veins. I stop suddenly, then the heart keeps on pumping blood out, but the return of blood from your muscles cut or are suddenly stopped because the muscles stop contracting as much. The heart therefore cannot pump out what it does not receive, therefore blood pressure drops rapidly and one might feel like fainting. Hence, it's important not to stop suddenly, but instead continue moving for a few minutes to allow the heart rate and your heart to gradually go back to where it was at rest. In addition, one might also choose to do an exercise test to keep track of your progress, meaning that if let's say you have a goal in terms of walking or in terms of jogging, then you can see how long you take to walk a certain distance or to run a certain distance, and then track your progress over time by doing another exercise test after 6 to 8 weeks or the duration that you want to train for, and doing it again at the end to see how much you have improved. Now, before I end, I will share some proverbs on exercise. From August 2021, it says, if you exercise even a little, you will not lose the sense of playing and your body will not become stiff and rigid. If you sleep even a little, you will not collapse. Even if it's a little, you must do it. Do not forget this word and keep on doing it. From March 2021, it also talks about, even though it is difficult, if you take care of your well-being and exercise every day, you will receive the grace of healing. Some sickness cannot be dealt with only through prayer, but needs to be healed by exercise. You have to do the exercise that pertains to it. And lastly, from this year's July 2023 Proverbs, it talks about, you have to learn about exercise, then it will be fun and you can do it for a long time. In the same way, you have to learn about prayer so that it can be done meaningfully and last for a long time without getting boring. You must surely learn. Truly, through taking action and doing things and getting better at it, we will be able to find better ways that are more enjoyable. Personally, for myself, through running and training in track and field, one thing that definitely I've been able to see is that through training, the things that were once difficult became easy. For instance, a 20-minute jog that was once difficult for me, but through years, a 20-minute jog has become my warm-up for a 1-hour-long run. Also, through doing things consistently, I've seen that can surely allow you to break through to the next level. Because during the past few years of training, there have been many periods where I felt stagnant. But as long as I committed to it, as long as I did the training and trusted the training program that my coach has had for me, I was able to break through and get faster and get stronger over time. In the same way, let us all strive to develop ourselves both physically and spiritually. Take care, everyone, and we'll meet all of you during another episode. Goodbye.
And thank you so much, Yan-Yu, for a wonderful and awesome episode, brand new episode of Health is Happiness on cardio training. Hope you guys really learned a lot from this and hope you guys actually put this into action because I will for sure tonight. Yeah, I'm going to do it tonight for sure. So everyone, it is Wednesday. We have a service tonight. We're going to go deeper into the Word. I hope you guys are looking forward to it. Have an amazing and awesome day, and we'll see you guys again tomorrow on the Morning Star Drive on 117.8.
It's the Morning Star Drive 117.8. You soaring up with sky, now's the time, don't delay. I'm sitting in my ride and it's time to fly. So let's realign, just listen and fill your mind.
I'm burning with desire and the passion. Nobody can stop me when I'm like